Chapter 15. Two of a Kind. Uma and Hades faced each other. She crossed her arms, and Hades crossed his. He glared at her. She glared back. It was like they were looking into a mirror. They were both blue-haired villains with a score to settle against their enemies. "Did I hear you right? Did you ask me if I still have my ember?" said Hades. "Yes. Or are you deaf from all this loud music?" said Uma. "Your ember. Do you have it or not?" "Why do you ask?" he said imperiously. "It could be useful," she said, leaning against the wall of his cave as if she didn't care a whit whether he still had it or not. Hades frowned. His blue hair stuck up from his forehead like a rock star's, but he had lined around his eyes. Like Uma's mother, Ursula had been on the Isle of the Lost for more than 2 decades. Uma thought that Hades' life on the Isle of the Lost was probably not all that different from his former life in the underworld. There was no sunlight down here either. "Aren't you tired of living underground?" she asked, "in this damp and dreary cave?" "Is it any better up there?" he scoffed. "On Oridon?" "You fool! You know it is. I was there. The place is a fairy tale land," she told him, "and we should be part of that fairy tale land." Hades yawned. "I'm more of a myth guy." "Whatever you are, you're not content here." "How could you be?" said Uma. "You used to be a god. Don't you guys live on nectar and honey?" Hades sniffed. "We do have delicate constitutions. Not that you know anything about that, being an octopus." "Sea witch," corrected Uma. Hades looked suspicious. "By the way, how did you get in here?" "There was a crack in the tunnel, a tiny one." "And you fit through it?" Uma waggled her eyebrows. "I have my ways." Hades nodded. "Shapeshifter. I get it. So why are you here? Why aren't you out there with your pirates?" Uma studied her fingernails, affecting insouciance. "I don't want to let anyone know I'm around until my plan is in motion." "You've got a plan?" "I do," she said with a crafty smile. Hades picked up his real guitar and began to pluck a few discordant notes. "Fine. Tell me." "We should team up, you and I. Together we could bring down the stupid barrier that holds everyone here. Then we could all be free." Hades listened. Then he smiled. Then he grinned. "Bring down the barrier, huh?" "Yes, and I would finally beat Mal." That's all Uma wanted, to show Mal that she could beat her, that Mal didn't get to win every time. So Mal had won the Triton and Ben's heart. But Uma would have this. She would show her old friend, her forever rival, that Uma would have her revenge. Mal would never forget her name, or who freed the Isle of the Lost. Uma! Think about it. Once the barrier's down, you could go anywhere and do anything you wanted, said Uma. "You don't say," said Hades. He played a chord and let it echo around the cave. "I do say," said Uma. "How long have you been here? 20 years? And how long were you in the underworld? They don't remember you up on Olympus anymore. Hades, he's over. He's nothing. That's what they say." "Is that so?" He waggled his eyebrows in frustration. "I'm afraid so," said Uma with a faux sad frown. "No one remembers you. All they talk about is Hercules. I met his kid Herky. He's huge as a bull and even more famous than his father." Hades threw off his guitar and paced the rocky cave floor. Soon he would overturn the lamp and kick the television set. His bad temper was as predictable as the weather. And Zeus? Well, he's just having a ball up there on Mount Olympus. Every once in a while he throws down his lightning bolts just to remind everyone who's in charge, said Uma. At this point, she was completely spitballing. She had no clue what they were doing on Mount Olympus, but Hades didn't have to know that. "But I'm the boss," cried Hades. "Me! Then help me." "Show them," said Uma. "Show them who's boss." "I will," he said, his eyes lighting up. But Uma thought she saw something else flickering there, until he went on. "I'll go back to ruling the world and causing destruction. We must take down the barrier and escape from the Isle of the Lost." "Now you're talking," said Uma. She held out her hand. "You know you're not too bad for a has-been." Hades cackled. "You ain't seen nothing yet."